Welcome back to the Heal to Lead podcast, the space where we're coming to unlearn surviving life and embracing wholeness. Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about presence. I am your host, Kevin Overton-Hadnot, and I'm excited about this episode. Why? Because it's my first solo episode. That's right, you get me, and more me. It's me and you talking today. We're having a conversation. If you don't know who I am Kevin Overton-Hadnot, author, speaker, therapist, and now podcast host. Listen, let's jump in. How I normally would start if I have a guest on the couch is I would just ask them, how are you feeling today? And I want to do that same thing for me as well. So, Kevin, how are you feeling today, man? I'm glad you asked. Actually, today, what I brought in with me is this cue card, which is a poster that you can get on kevinovertonhadnot.com. But it just says, today, how do you feel? And I love this because when I first started my therapy journey, I didn't see other emoji faces, right, that looked like me. And so I created these faces with the artist out of Dallas. And it came up with these individual, and it says angry, surprised, grumpy, confident, and weary. And so on this particular document here, as you can see, it's faces that look like me as Kevin. I went to Etsy and other sites to see things like this, and I could not find one that had men and that were looking like my skin tone, right? And so today, I'm feeling a bit happy and scared at the same time, right? Two things can be true. And I love that I'm happy and scared. I'm happy because one, I'm doing this podcast, right? I'm normalizing conversations around mental health, which is really what I want to do. And at the same time, I'm scared and nervous about it at the same time. And that's okay. And the scared part is really letting me know that I'm needing to let the scared part know that, hey, I'm safe. I'm supported, and I'm confident and actually like fueled and ready to go. So that's how I'm doing today. I love this. But yeah, if you don't have this yet, definitely order it on kevinovertonhadnot.com. But this is a reminder to me that as men, we do have a range of emotions. I was reading Jason Wilson's book. Of course, the idea is to become comprehensive men, but I was laughing when I read a chapter in there because he reminded us that sometimes as men, right, we have only 8 crayons in our coloring book or coloring box, right? And with those, the idea is that we would expand to maybe 32 or 36. And so this document here, or this poster, reminded me, Kevin, you have more. You have a range of emotions that you need to be able to tap into and at least identify. So I wanted to pull that out and show you all that, but also to be able to articulate how I'm feeling today and turn the question on me so that you can know and come into my world a little bit more. As an icebreaker, I also wanted to do this, and that is to say, give me a gentle reminder that I needed but didn't know until I heard it. What comes up for me is that rest is productive. Rest is productive. And we often, because we live in this sort of fast-paced, not slowing down world where we're hustling and bustling, rest becomes this calendar date 3 months from down the road, where we're now at like all-inclusive resort and hanging out by the pool. And that's ultimately how we think about rest. And honestly, I'm thinking about how can I integrate a lifestyle that includes and incorporates rest more regularly, right? And not waiting until 3 months to take leave if I'm able to, or if you're able to. Because for me, rest is also a part of healing, and it's also something that I'm thinking about that I don't have to earn it. I deserve rest. I need rest, right? And the more we think about it from that particular angle, I can now incorporate it as a lifestyle for me because, again, our bodies need rest. My body needs rest. That's the only way that I'm able to fuel itself and to prepare to move forward in my hats that I wear, basically. So that would be a reminder that I would tell myself that rest is productive and I don't have to earn it. I deserve it. Thank you for checking out this week's episode of the Heal to Lead podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. I am Kevin Overton-Hadnot, and I am also the author of A Man's Guide to Healing and Leadership. This journal right here is available today on Amazon.com. This is a 21-day journey to reclaim your strength, your purpose, and authentic leadership through healing. Come on, get this for your husbands, your uncles, your cousins, your boyfriends, your brothers. This is a 21-day self-guided reflection tool that they got to get today. Check it out. So how I want to go deeper and start my conversation today for this solo episode is really to articulate and share more about my journey to date. My journey becoming a therapist for me is a very important one, and I'm proud of the journey that I've taken because I didn't just sort of like decide overnight, hey, Kevin, let's become a therapist. And honestly, I believe it's a calling from God because the way I got to become a therapist was, I remember being on the worship team in my church, right? And ultimately, as a worship leader, you're literally invoking the presence of God and ushering people into the presence of God and inviting us, curating a space, right, where we can lift up our hands, where we can worship, and where we can sing songs of joy and glory to God. And while I appreciate that and I love that, I was also thinking and feeling like there has to be something else that I can do. I think the calling was included worship leading, but I was deeper than that. I went to my pastor and I was like, Pastor, I believe I want to help people beyond just singing songs every Sunday. Most of us, as we come into the worship service, we're coming in, we're singing, and we're going home to the same anxiety, to the same family conflict, to the same life stress, to the same PTSD, schizophrenia sometimes. And for me, I wanted to go beyond just a platform and really help people in a different way. I couldn't really articulate what that was because, quite frankly, I never thought that counseling could be for me, right? And so I went to him. I was like, hey, I want to help people a little bit deeper. And so we went down this journey that ultimately included me going to the Stephen ministry at my church and really seeking someone to train me. And ultimately looked at other churches who may have had some slots available. If you don't know about Stephen Ministry is a place or a ministry that walks with people who experience loss, whether that's grief, financial loss, relational loss. And they walk with you one by one until I guess a set period. That requires some training that I wasn't able to obtain. And so I went back to my pastor. I was like, hey, I looked everywhere, even the national organization, and couldn't find any immediate training. And so I went back and we ultimately came up with maybe go try a certificate in ministry because it feels like you want to help people but a little bit more aligned with church values. And ultimately, I did maybe 1 or 2 semesters at a seminary here in my area, and I was like, no, this is more moving me into like the MDiv area. And so we went back, and he was like, hey, go talk to this particular professor at seminary. And once I got on campus, I really felt like this is my home. This is my place to be. We had literally an hour conversation, and her office was set up as if it was a school professor's office and also a counseling room. Of course, I didn't get counseling in that moment, but I was like, this is a place for me. And by the way, stay tuned because the person who I met with will be on the show and we can talk more about that in details later. But once I left her office, I was like, I want to become a therapist. And so, of course, gratefully, I was able to apply and move through the counseling program. So for me, it became more of like a faith and spiritual mission and calling that I had to achieve. And it took me probably about 2 years or so before I landed on, okay, counseling is a thing that I will want to do. Because honestly, before then, I had no real concept and idea that I could be a therapist. I could sit in front of people and do the work. On a personal level, I would say I was leaving my job one day, and out of my job parking lot, there are some high bridges. And this trigger warning, if this is going to trigger you in any way, definitely pause this, take care of yourself, and come back whenever you're ready. But outside of my office are three high bridges. And I was driving to lunch one day, and out of nowhere, I saw someone fall from the bridge. And I immediately pulled over, parked my car. We called 911 so they can come support in any way. But ultimately, I know it wasn't my fault, but what came up for me was like, I wonder if they would have had another Kevin sitting in front of them. I wonder if they had one person who they can maybe go to talk about the weight that they were carrying and the issues that they were processing. And so from that particular mindset, it became a passion of mine, really to be a support system in any way for someone else. So I think my journey that sparked my interest in this field started both from a spiritual faith perspective and even like a personal perspective. But yeah, and then I think the defining moment of when I wanted to become a therapist was probably right after I graduated from my MBA program. I think that's when I was experiencing a lot of like, relational change. And that was the moment in which I was doing a lot more singing on the worship team. And I'm so grateful that Michelle Obama had really opened up the idea that, people even like her and like me, we can have this low grade depression. And I think from that point, I was like, you know what, I want to be able to take care of myself. So I sort of began thinking about therapy in a different way at that point. And of course, after doing my program, I was encouraged to not only do therapy, but kind of got ushered into how can I become a therapist and really help people. And so it was kind of all in that same season. And some of the fears that I'm thinking about that I had earlier on and how I worked through them. One fear was, and this might be a fear for other therapists as well, or just for other people, that I really doubted if people would even trust me, right? I mean, I'm another human. I'm a stranger, right? And I really was curious and I doubted, right, if people would even trust me with their experiences and what they were going through. And I had to work through that with my own therapists and supervisors, at the time. And another fear or doubt was, as people, we're so wired to want to fix people. Like our first inclination is to fix you. Like you tell me an issue, I'm going to go fix it. And I had to learn, well, that was my doubt and fear. That I wasn't able to do that right away. But luckily, through great supervision that I was experiencing or receiving, I had to learn how to sit back in my sessions. And it really wasn't about fixing people because people aren't broken, but really how can I lead them into their own healing experiences for themselves? And so that was something that I had to learn in my supervision and actually doing the work. And even through my counselor education program, I learned that, and this is a secret that all counselors probably won't say out loud, but our job isn't really to give advice. I'm not here to make more Kevins, but rather to really give you the decision-making tools that you could use in your own journey. And so, yeah, that is a little bit about my journey into becoming a therapist and a little bit more about me. But if I could go back to give myself one piece of advice, I think it would be to keep taking care of Kevin as I'm taking care of everybody else, right? Because we get so excited. Okay, now I'm a therapist. I'm licensed. I'm ready to go. And you forget that I'm also a human. And I also need some support. I also need to rest, right? I also need to take care of me. I love one of my colleagues, Dr. Warren, who just reminds us to not pour from an empty cup. Right? He says that the full cup is for me and the overflow is for you. And I had to remember that, hey, Kevin, don't pour from an empty cup. And from that point on, I've always had to remember, hey, Kevin, take care of you. Take care of you. Whatever you need for today, take care of yourself so that you can continue taking care of others. So that's a little bit more about me. And let me go into this thing that I want to bring on my show as well, which is mental health and culture. Before, I read another article before, but this one was from the Rolling Stone. And this article is about Lizzo. We all know Lizzo. Shout out to Lizzo, by the way. Tag her in this as well. But Lizzo shared with the Rolling Stone how music became a lifeline during her struggle with depression while working on her upcoming album, Love in Real Life. She described that during intense emotional lows, she still forced herself into the studio. That's certainly a strategy for her. But she also said that she felt that music saved her life. Early on, she self-censored deeply personal songs, fearing backlash. But on her new mixtape, shout out to My Face Hurts from Smiling, she embraced radical honesty, unapologetically expressing herself and shedding fears about offending audiences. Now she feels mentally stronger. She uses a different word here, but having overcome public criticism and personal trauma, and she plans to create art continuously by trusting her instincts. I think three quick things that came up for me when I read this article, and I just love, again, my platform is really to normalize conversations around mental health, and I just love to see mental health in different sectors of our world, right? And especially in entertainment, where people are really leveraging their platforms to normalize these conversations, because again, it is still stigmatized. And so I love that Lizzo was able to just have this conversation on the Rolling Stone. But the first thing that came up for me was creativity is, or it can be a coping mechanism. Of course, if done right. I'll say if you need more intense support, if you're in crisis, of course, we'll plug in 988 in moments like that. But you definitely can find meaningful ways to express yourself. I do believe in the power of externalization so that we're not internalizing things. Because when we internalize things, they become scripts that we live out, which may manifest in negative ways that we may not want to, right? And so self-expression can look like journaling, writing poems, writing songs. And again, these are ways to help us through navigating emotional lows. So that was the first thing. Understanding that creativity can be a coping mechanism. And then the other two really quick is there is power and there's anxiety in being vulnerable, right? Two things can be true. She had this feeling of this unsettling feeling when processing and sharing raw personal content. And also we see that she chose ultimately authenticity. So again, that just shows you that there's both power and the anxiety when we're trying to be vulnerable, especially on the platform that she has. And then also there's resilience and new identity that can come on the other side of criticism. She definitely said, hey, at the end of the day, I appeared or emerged mentally stronger. Again, she used a different word there in true Lizzo terms. But I'm just so proud of her. And my main takeaway that I noted down here is that embracing creative authenticity despite fear, right? You're not saying fear won't be there, but despite fear, can be a powerful act of self-healing. And Lizzo's journey shows that expressing truths, no matter how raw, can help us reconnect with our inner strength and continue growing, even when it's messy. Even when it's messy. So shout out to Lizzo. More power to you. Someone tag her on this. I would love to bring her on the show as well. Let me go to this next segment, which is a letter from the listener. Remember, every episode we are reading letters from a listener. This is someone navigating mental health, life, and everything in between. We are just holding space for them right here on the Heal to Lead podcast. This letter is from Cedric. We'll call him Cedric. Cedric is a 42-year-old black man who just started therapy for the first time this year. Cedric says, I've spent most of my life surviving, putting on a face, keeping it together, doing what I had to do. And now that I finally have space to breathe, I'm overwhelmed by everything I've never dealt with. He says, sometimes I feel like I've missed my chance to grow emotionally. Like I should have started this 20 years ago when I was breaking down inside. His question is it ever too late to heal? Wow. And he also says, and how do you stop regretting all the years you weren't okay but had to pretend to be? First of all, let me just pause and literally just hold space. Thank you for sending that in. Thank you for entrusting me and us with your story, Cedric. I just want to start by affirming your courage, right? It takes so much courage. Again, we throw around this vulnerability word, but it takes so much courage to be brave enough to send this in and to share your story. And even to begin, right, the healing journey, even at 42. Let me just affirm that for you. I think what came up for me is really just to say you didn't miss a moment. You didn't miss your moment, right? You're just finally safe enough to meet it. And again, that's not like a practical handout or like a real tangible tool to take away, but hopefully there's power in just affirming you that it's never too late to begin. It's never too late to begin again and to start where you are. Even like Lizzo said, even if it's messy, you're starting. And so shout out to you for that. I wanted to also reframe. I want to reframe time as a gift. I do believe that healing is not about how early you start. It's about how deeply you go when you're ready. So through the years that you spent surviving, or though the years that you spent surviving wasn't wasted, I think they were just training grounds, right, for who you're becoming to at this point. So hopefully that reframing can help you take a deep breath and understand that you are right where you need to be, and that is now at the beginning of your healing journey, even if that's feels a little bit uncomfortable. That might be true. So definitely just maybe share it with yourself in a way that gives yourself grace as you begin this healing journey. And just end on what I already said. You're not behind. I'll say it slower. You're not behind. You're becoming. You're not behind. You're becoming. And every day that you're choosing healing, I think you're right on time. And again, those are just my notes that I brought for this conversation for you, Cedric. I'm so grateful that you wrote in, and I think that resonates with so many people, right? Because I think once you get to a certain age, you feel like you're on a different clock, and that may be true, and that might be your experience. I just believe that it's never too late, and I love that I said you're not behind, you're becoming. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and your heart is full, definitely write us a letter. Thank you for sharing your stories with us. We want to hear from you. Send us a letter at healtolead@gmail.com, and we might read your letter here on the show. Again, I'm someone who loves holding space for you and for anyone who are navigating life issues, stresses, and anything in between. As I'm closing, I think what comes up for me is just last question is, what is one healing habit that I would want to give to someone right now that they can use every day? And again, a healing habit is a bite-sized, really small thing that we can do practically in our lives towards our healing journey. And for me, what comes up is journaling. Journaling is so important. There's so much power in journaling. And I'm not talking about like a dear diary, today was this and she said this and I don't like how she did this. That might be what you want to process out loud, but I want to normalize that journaling can be literally in your phone. It could be in a nice book. It can be in a lock and key. It can be, I have a client who actually journals with speaking into his phone and like just processing it that way. and then it create more of like a script for him so he can see and look back on. Journaling can be what you make it. I think there are two things I would think about. One is, how am I feeling? How am I doing today? What came up for me? You might refer to a chart like mine where I can see different images of feelings, where I can see maybe today I was overly anxious. Maybe today I was super nervous. Maybe today I was angry. Maybe today I was overwhelmed. Maybe I was stressed. Begin to give yourself information that you can use and process and think about. The power of journaling is important because maybe over 7 days you can see, wow, for 6 days out of 7 days, I was stressed. Or for 5 days out of 7 days, I was nervous about my job doing this. Or for 5 days out of 7 days, I was nervous that your wife or your husband didn't love you the way you. So however you want to process that, you can just begin to look over the data from bird's eye view and not be in your psychological internal space, right? And begin to process and have real-time information that you can use and leverage. The other thing I would do is ask yourself, based on how I'm feeling, how can I or how do I need to support myself in this moment? Do I need to talk to a friend? Do I need to continue to have space for myself? Do I need a cold drink of water? Do I need to go lay down for a second? Begin to ask yourself, how do I support myself in this as well? And then take that serious. I'm going to end it here. I want to thank you all for watching this solo episode with me, talking about my journey. I'm talking about the information from Lizzo. Again, shout out to her. And then closing with the letter from Cedric. Listen, you can find us on all platforms, again, on YouTube, on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Hill Toledo Official. Thank you for watching.